It's 10 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. First and foremost, thank you everybody for being here today. We've been doing a ton of webinars, and I felt like the missing piece was music, because everybody just kind of sits silently, and I don't know. In your classrooms, I'm sure you set the tone right away when your students get there. So I just wanted to try something different and try setting the tone for us. You know, it's some crazy times, and I think that we could all use a little positivity, and, you know, who doesn't love some good vibes and some good music? So if it's something that you weren't digging, send me a private message. There you go. Great done. We could do a TikTok later. But I just, you know, wanted to try something a little bit different this morning and, you know, kick it off, set the tone positive. So with that being said, I'm Lindsay Zilli. I'm the Director of Professional Learning for Illinois Digital Educators Alliance. And today we have with us some phenomenal coaches. Don and Marcy have volunteered their time to work with teachers from across the state. The idea is that not every district or building has an instructional coach. And so we wanted to give anybody an opportunity to work with coaches, pick their brains, or just listen in, because sometimes we don't even know the questions to ask. So just hearing what other people are thinking and brainstorming, we want to use this as a really kind of low-key way to just throw ideas at the wall, see what sticks, but give you some guidance in the form of coaches. So big thank you to Don and Marcy for, you know, piloting this and being our first run. I couldn't have selected better people to begin this, so thank you very much. Right now we have about 24 people on, and so the way that we're going to kind of operate is maybe Don and Marcy take a minute to introduce yourselves and your kind of familiarity with within your role as an instructional coach, maybe what you're certified in, and your approach to this idea of remote learning. And then as questions kind of occur, let's use the chat to pop those questions in so that we can kind of easily get information to and from each other. But also if there's other coaches on board or people that are experiencing things that are working, feel free to answer those questions in the chat as well. Does that sound good, Marcy and Don?
Yes.
It does.
All right, awesome. So while Marcy and Don are speaking, if everybody else could make sure that they are muted, that would be very helpful. And then we will hand it over to Don and Marcy. So Don, do you want to take it off and then just kind of introduce yourself?
Sure. Can you hear me? I've said that phrase more in the last week and a half. Or can you hear me? My name is Don Sturm. I am a technology integration coach for the Morton School District in Central Illinois. I was a high school social studies teacher for 23 years, and the last 6 I have been doing this. It started off much more technology focused, and now it is much more just instructional practice focused. We are an iPad district. Honestly, I view we're like one of the lucky ones in that all 3,600 of our students have a device at home right now, which brings both positives and some challenges. So, yep, that's me.
Good morning. My name is Marcy Bruger. I'm from a very small rural district outside of Peoria, Illinois, Elmwood Community Schools, if you've heard of us. I've probably been in education now. I think this is my 13th year. I was an elementary education teacher, mostly at the first grade level for about 10 of those years. This is my 3rd year as our district's technology integration specialist. And really, we are a one-to-one district, K through 12. So like Don was saying, I feel like we're very fortunate. When the e-learning kind of happened, we were able to send home our Chromebook devices from 1st grade through 12th grade. And that has, I think, helped considerably with the expectations of what is happening at home, and to be able to deliver assignments and stay connected to our student population as well as our teacher population in general. So that's just a little bit, I guess, about me.
So let me ask you both a question just to kind of kick this off. In what capacity are you delivering instruction, or are your teachers delivering instruction to their students? Is there a specific LMS that everybody uses? Is it video content? Is it email? what are you using and what seems to be working well? So Don, would you start?
Yeah, well, I would say primarily we're using Seesaw and Google Classroom. And I think I kind of chuckle because what is working is when teachers understand that they can't just take an 8 to 3 schedule and put it online. Like like literally right before I came here, I just got off a Google Meet with our with our superintendent. And I'm like, you have to help reassure these teachers that they don't have to do an 8 to 3 type of thing. So honestly, that's what we're struggling with right now. So if there are any of you that are like, yes, that is what, like we're having the same issue. I think that's that learning, like the best things that I've seen happen are when teachers say, today we're going to focus on math. Here's some things that you can do with math. Here's the lesson. Here's the 8-minute video that I've done on Google Meet or Screencastify, and let the kids at whatever point in the day, not at 8 o'clock we're doing this and at 10 o'clock we're doing this. So, but to answer your question, primarily Seesaw and Google Classroom. And sorry, you'll hear my dog in the background.
We love dogs.
We have taken a couple different approaches based on our grade levels. So for example, our K-3, they were sent home a 2-week plan. And our district is calling those choice boards. Basically, it's a column of every subject. And then students can pick from that subject what they would like to do. So there's a lesson associated with each subject. And then kids just cross those off. I have a daughter who's in 3rd grade. So as a parent, I'm just initialing what is expected of my child and making sure that she's doing her lessons. She also has access to her Chromebook, and teachers are doing a great job of, through their email, sending different links to look at. Like I think the last one was maybe on ratios or some kind of dance little thing that she had to do. Our 4th through 12th, Google Classroom has probably been the biggest tool that I feel like we're lucky to have as far as being able to provide students with just the lessons that are, that are being assigned on a daily basis. It has allowed our teachers, I would say, kind of that ease of mind where they did not have to plan. They planned 2 weeks out, but they didn't have to rush and physically send home 2 weeks worth of material to their kids as quickly as all of this happened. So they've been able to communicate on a daily basis, through Google Classroom of what is expected. Beyond platforms, some of the bigger platforms I think that we've utilized, Google Meets has been absolutely wonderful. I know that a lot of teachers are holding little conferences and check-ins with their students to see how they're doing, or holding literary circles using a platform like Google Meets. Flipgrids have been a great tool as far as collecting reflections from students. Padlet, just finding those tools to keep us all connected, while we are apart, have been perfect. But I would say Google Meets, Flipgrid, and Padlet in our district have really helped kind of keep us connected. Like Don, right before this meeting started, I got off a Google Meet with our DLT team, our district leadership team, and we're talking about going to a 4-to-1 schedule. And what that is students are working 4 days a week, where they have, instead of giving them a subject, I guess, to work on every day, we're going kind of more standards based. So a teacher will pick a standard or a skill that they want their student to show demonstration of learning or mastery of within that week. So then the Friday is more a teacher work day for teachers to get caught up on any kind of grading or assessing or feedback, and then proactively plan going into the next week. So that's kind of one way we're thinking about approaching this going forward.
I love that idea. I love using Friday, like in the teacher's mind, as that work day. And I think that would relieve so much pressure for teachers to feel like, okay, I'm just going to have my kids work Monday through Thursday, and then Friday's my day. Because you're not getting planned periods now. You're not getting collaborative time with your peers or vertical articulation. So you have to rethink the way that we do school. It's totally different. It's not, seat time anymore. It's teachable moments. It's those learning targets and stemming from the learning target you want kids to know and understand. So that's a really great approach.
Yeah, we've yet to really try it. We just spoke about it this morning, but I do think that it, like what you're saying, Lindsay, is that it, for teachers, it's that day, right? It's that day of breathing, that day of, okay, I can be proactive now. I can get caught up on what my kids need, and then I can go into the next week with a strong game plan. We have a lot of students in our district who are, working during this time, or who are at grandma and grandpa's, and it changes what a typical traditional school day looks like. They're not all within the walls of being able to do their schoolwork from 8 to 3. So we've been very flexible, and as long as you have shown that it's done 2 days later. So we give them kind of like this 2-day window to show that they have completed their work, and that's been helpful.
And I think that's what teachers are struggling with. It's funny, I see all of the resources kind of being dropped over to the right-hand side, and I've been very careful about how I share those, because what we're finding out is that parents are overwhelmed because teachers may not have used, I've got my Bunsey shirt on. If I don't want teachers to start using Bunsey right now if they've never used it with their students, because if you're going to do that to a second grade kid, let's be honest, it's probably the second grade parent that is going to have to go in and figure out, and they're just not used to it. And so I like that. I really like that 4-in-1 schedule. In fact, I think I'm going to actually text the superintendent and say, hey, I just put this out here, a 4-in-1 schedule. I'll explain what it means later, because I think that's what we are finding is just teachers who are overwhelmed. And it's almost akin to, as my boss said, it's like being a first-year teacher again. And for some of us, for me, it's been 29 years since I was a new teacher. So I think teachers are struggling. I think parents are struggling. I think this is really bringing to light one of the things that I've been have felt very strongly about is the equity issue. And I think Jeremy might have been the one that said 50% don't have connectivity. We have to realize that there is a huge equity issue here. Even in a district like ours, we can say, oh, everybody has an iPad at home. We have kids who still don't have internet access. So we're trying to get them internet access. And I know Marcy and I are in a group where we've been kind of conversing back and forth about how are you getting internet access to your kids. So I think if I could give one bit of suggestion to everybody who's in here, it's we need to just kind of, as my mom said, take a chill pill, kind of just say, okay, we're going to do what we can, but we cannot kill ourselves over this, because it's just, I think we're in this for the long haul. So if this was a 2-week thing or 3-week thing, okay, we can get through this. We can stress out for 3 weeks. But if this becomes much longer than that, people are going to burn out very quickly. So that's why I like this kind of thing, that people can step in and, ask questions, which I noticed somebody on the side ask about hosting a Google Meet or Zoom for parents.
Don, sorry, it's Amber.
Oh, hey, Amber.
I just wanted to, just because I want to kind of stay on the 4-in-1 schedule for just a second, because we actually have someone on here who did the 4-in-1 schedule last week with their teachers. They're logged in as Strebelt, Strebelt. Putting them on the spot a little bit, but I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind being okay with unmuting and sharing just a little bit about that experience, because I think it's awesome that we have somebody who did that.
Please, this is Luz. Before you do that, could you everybody else mute?
Hello.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Tracy Strabel. I'm from Princeville, and I do Marcy and Don, they're my mentors. So our district, our superintendent sent it out, and we met as a team and talked about it, and then he put that out there last week, and it was a huge relief for everyone, the teachers, to go to that schedule. And for exactly what Marcy had said, just so that the teachers had a day to get caught up on their materials and a break from parents contacting them. A chance to also meet with their grade level team, since everyone is trying to struggle family life and run what's going on virtually for your students. So for us, that was a huge success, and we're going to continue. That is going to be our format through this, is to go to a 4-day.
Tracy, thanks for sharing. That's great to hear. What was the format during the 4 days? So what was the expectation for you to be available?
Our expectation was that we followed the e-learning plan that we had in place, that the teachers were available from 8 to 2 to, if anyone needed to have questions, to contact online. We're going to reevaluate that time frame. We're not sure if that's how we're going to continue to be from 8 to 2. We're discussing whether or not the teachers should set their own hours based on their family's needs, and maybe do like a block in the morning, a block in the afternoon, and a block in the evening. We did have some teachers, especially in the primary grades, whose parents are both working and will continue to work because they're either doctors or nurses, or, you know, and they're not getting really any support until the weekends. So the teachers felt that if those students were like they needed to respond to their work using that seesaw format in the younger grades. So those were just some discussions that we're still having. We're meeting as a team on Wednesday to decide, you know, how we should set that up. But we were trying to take some pressure off of parents, but pressure off of the teachers as well. And we've also kind of gone to the same format. We have teachers who haven't used Meets or Zoom, but other than that, we're really recommending that our teachers, like, this is not the time to throw something brand new at the students, and especially when the parents are going to have to be the ones there helping in the elementary building aspect.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. And that's an interesting point that I think should be considered as well, is what about those parents who are working, and should there be some flexible time for teachers to maybe be available outside normal
Well,
hours?
One of our concerns is that giving our teachers the relief that they need, because they feel like they're on call from 6:30 in the morning until 10:30 at night, depending on when a parent might be contacting them or a student might be contacting them. So we're also looking at it in that aspect. And now that we're past this first week, we're hoping that we can put some better guidelines in place, because we're learning as we go. This isn't our normal e-learning day plan, which is what we, you know, had thought we would be able to follow, but obviously that's not going to work.
Another great point. Tracy, thank you so much for sharing. Lindsay, Don, Marcy, I'll hand it back over to you in regards to, yes, Kumar's question about Google Meet or Zoom for parents, etc.
And I was going to comment that our when Marcy talked about like the platforms, we also are using Flipgrid and Google Meet. We are not using Zoom for students. And I know some schools are. I don't know how many of you, like, we're really focused on like COPA compliance, and really even Google Meet with students. I mean, really, by letter of law, we probably shouldn't be using it, but we have it in our district so that Google Meet is only able to be started by teachers. We have it done that way. We didn't communicate that with teachers. I did not communicate that with teachers. So we had kids that were trying to start them to do group work and so forth, and those Google Meets have gone very well. We have not done one yet with the parents. I'm waiting for this. They're actually, the district admins are meeting today, and I think that's going to probably be sort of a directive for me, like, hey, can you run a Google Meet? I'll have to say I'm a little bit worried about that if I'm the only one on there, because I think our parents have been pretty good about kind of going with the flow at this point, but I don't know if that would be like the pressure release, and if it would be just inundated. You know, it'll be interesting. But I think I do have a Google site set up for parents that at least gives them some kind of frequently asked questions. We keep adding to that all the time, so we're trying to do that parent component, and you know, giving them information as much as possible.
Yeah, we use Google Meet, and right now our tech director kind of has it open just during this time. I don't know if any changes will be made so that we, you know, I think he'll probably address any issues that stem from it. But right now, I think it was just that everything quickly, that it was the tool that really helped us be able to communicate. And so right now we've been utilizing it quite a bit.
Well, and I want to, this is one of those things that sometimes you find this out the hard way. So in Google Meet, Meet, I don't know how many of you are using it, but the rooms at this point stay open. So if you send a Google Meet invite out to someone and then they go back into it later on, so if you've started it with a student or students.
Don, sorry, I swear I just saw something from Google come out like yesterday or last night that they changed that.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. So
Okay.
I tested it this morning and it still looked like it's a rolling update is what they're calling it. So, and that's what I wanted to mention, that at this point, you may have teachers that go, oh my gosh, did you know when I jumped onto it, my students were in this Google Meet and they were talking and I don't know what they were talking about. And Google is responding to stuff like that, and they are going to put some rules in place that say if you start a meeting and you use the nickname, that then you are the controller of that, because even right now in Meet, people can mute your microphone. They can't. We had a situation where a kid was kicking another kid out of the meeting. So I know Google is responding to those kind of things, because that's what people were directing. They were saying, I want to use Zoom, because in Zoom, I can actually control much more of what's like who's in the room and who has access to do certain things. So if you've not used Google Meet and you're a Google a G Suite school, I would highly recommend giving it a shot, because I've had some very heartwarming emails from teachers that say this just made my heart happy. And Facebook posts from parents that show their kids sitting in front of an iPad talking with classmates. So I think it is a valuable platform at this point. And pardon me if I look like I'm doing other things. I am responding to emails and text from people that are in my district.
I can speak to the update. I think that they must have made some changes rather quickly. I know when I hosted a Google Meet this morning. One thing we're trying in our district is a coffee talk in the morning. And that's just with me, where teachers can jump on and ask any questions or just do a daily check-in. But that's, I don't know, just a half an hour to start our morning. And this morning, I had to accept those people who wanted to join, where the day before it was just everyone appeared. So I do think Google has addressed, at least on the person who sets up that meet, you have more control in accepting who comes back to that room than it was when it was just open. So.
And Marcy, can I ask you a question based on that? Did you have to put a nickname in?
I
or
did.
Did you do it from calendar?
This particular one, I set up a nickname.
Okay.
Yes. Which was, usually I just make it random. I mean, sometimes it's just my last name or.
And so then do you send that, because I have been doing all my Google Meets through the calendar, and then that's what I'm wondering is, I don't know that it gives me the ability of setting up a nickname.
When I've done it through the calendar, I have not. It just generates that code automatically. Like, I don't recall setting up a name.
Okay, because one of the things that Google issued was, in order for it to be a closed room, you were going to have to put a nickname in there. And I was like, okay, I can't wait to see how this is going to actually work. So as soon as I get off this call, I'm going to go back to our domain and just see if that, if we do see those changes.
Yeah, I'm a little curious now too. I think I might look.
If I could just jump in for a second, this is Kumar, by the way. Thank you for the responses to my questions. First of all, Zoom sent out a notification. You're probably all aware, but their 40-minute cap has been lifted. So in case there's anyone out there who is looking to use that and they're thinking, oh, I don't want to be, inhibited by a certain amount of time, just know that if one of you signs up within your district for that domain release, they approve it, and then anyone with the same, so like for instance, I'm at sd925.org, anyone with the similar domain would also be released, and you don't have that 40-minute cap. My hesitation with using it, because Zoom is great for calls, but I just hosted a mini Google Meet, and they were able, they changed it so that Google now has given the educators the opportunity, if I wanted to mute certain students, as the educator, I'm allowed to do that now, and the kids are not. So I have not yet used Zoom more recently with students, but I very much appreciate that feature in Google Meet. And since my school's Google district anyway, I'm kind of leaning towards that direction as it is, because I'm afraid if we get used to Zoom, then at the end of the year, we're gonna have to be paying for something that the teachers like. So personally, I'm trying to push my teachers towards Google Meet, but if you have any feedback, I'd take it to our tech director.
Kumar, this is Amber, and very great points. And I will tell you that obviously we're on Zoom right now, and we do utilize this frequently. However, with the new changes to Google Meet, we actually are finding that we prefer Google Meet, one particular, with the new additions, again, like you said, being able to mute, etc. But in particular, the closed captioning part is phenomenal. And that to us is a game changer in being able to have that available.
For sure.
Yeah. And Kumar, you bring up, so we are basically telling our teachers where G Suite School Meet is going to be the platform, because we have that element of control. Like, I can go in and say students cannot start a Google Meet. And that's something that our district felt very strongly about. Now, if we're into this 2 months, maybe they'll say, you know what, we need to have kids being able to generate their own meetings. And so for us, our district has said, if you're teachers and you want to meet using some other platform, that's great. But for students, it's going to be Google Meet. And I actually appreciate that, because now it's easy for me as the instructional coach to say, it's just focus on one thing. And it's just Google Meet, and I can teach them one platform and not have to teach, okay, here's how to use Zoom. And you bring up another great point. I am worried that I think it's awesome that these tech companies are opening things up for free. So don't misunderstand me, but at what point are teachers now going to say, ooh, I really like X program, it's $9,000 a year, and the district is going to say, yeah, we can't do that for everybody. So I am a little bit worried about that, and what's going to happen with that.
We did send out an email. I sent out an email just exactly what you said, Don. Like, this is fantastic. Utilize it, but also be aware that at some point they will probably change, the change from free to it being paid. So just, proceed with caution. But for right now, if it works for you in the immediate, then by all means explore.
One question that we had as well is, at what point does the all school email, try checking out this webinar and other things too much? And I think both of you kind of hit on this, but I do think it is a great question because the good and the bad, right? The good is that everybody wants to help and everybody wants to offer resources. The negative of that is that it can feel very overwhelming with what's out there. But Dawn and Marcy, I think you both have said it, and maybe just say it again in regards to the suggestions and advice you're giving to your teachers and district.
Yeah, so just proceed with caution, right, is what I guess I would say. That it's wonderful that these companies, I think, have risen to the challenge in trying to offer their free or their platforms for free or at reduced cost to kind of help us through this time, you know, that no one really foresaw coming as quickly as it did. But eventually, all that free will probably go away after you've been using it long enough where you feel hooked and you feel like you want to continue using it. There will probably at some point be a cost associated with using it maybe the following year. So I would say just proceed with caution. Our superintendent and principals forward me a lot of those emails, those free platforms, and I kind of sift through them, read the fine print on them, and
Yep.
I distribute those very, I'm very selective on what I put out there, because if I foresee that it's going to be something that is going to go away, you know, shortly, or is going to be something that I know that our district may not pay for moving forward, then I don't try to build that platform up as much, if that makes sense.
This is
Yeah,
Luz. I also agree with Donald about the equity part, because who is going to have access to what resources and who cannot access those resources because internet or because their parents cannot really help them. That is also a concern of mine. Like, yes, you have all these free resources that eventually are going to be taken away. Who is going to be able to continue benefiting from them and who is not? So as educators, we have that responsibility right now to ensure that everybody is having access to resources that benefit them.
And I think that's a great point. And actually, Dawn and Marcy, maybe that's something we can kind of switch to, is you sharing what it is that you are doing for students in your districts that don't have internet access, with both of you being, Marcy in particular, a very rural area. What are some of those things that you are doing to address that equity piece?
Sure. So, lack of a better word, I'll go with traditional. So before we left, you know, when all of this started, we got a list of students who did not have internet access, which wasn't a large population, but we do have some. And so how we are approaching that is teachers were just making a traditional paper packet, if you will, or giving alternative assignments to kids that did not require any technology whatsoever. So these kids were just given, you know, different activities to do, assessing kind of the same skill, if that makes sense. How are we getting those, that information, those assignments to kids? Again, like Amber said, we are in a very rural district. So in order to keep our bus drivers still working, our cafeteria staff still working, our bus drivers are still running their routes, and they are delivering homework to students who do not have internet access. They are delivering meals to any student who wants one. Like yesterday, I think we delivered 167 meals around, again, a very small town. Our district is a population of kids is 700 is the enrollment. So that's a large number of kids and meals that were distributed. But again, we are delivering, we being the bus drivers, are delivering assignments to students.
And we have, I don't know the official number, but we do have some families without internet access. And right now what we are doing is trying to work with Comcast. We had 3 parents that were hooked up yesterday with internet through Comcast. We are, is it ITV3? I live in Normal, so it's not ITV3, I think, working with them, trying to get hotspots. Honestly, the problem right now with hotspots is they're few and far between. They're difficult to procure right now. And so I was just talking to so I'm the bridge between the technology and the curriculum department. So the technology manager, that has been her role, and she's on the phone every day trying to say, hey, do you have any more? Do you have any more? And and we too are also lunches. Anybody from the age of 0 to 18 is eligible for lunches. And I don't remember how many we gave out, but it's been a lot. We actually have them pickup stations. It's kind of a grab and go. So they get a lunch, and then the lunch also has the next day's breakfast. And that's available every day for them. So that's kind of what we're trying to do at this point.
One thing that I heard Marcy say is skills and focusing on the skills. And I think that's where kind of getting away from that traditional classroom approach of content versus e-learning at home, being very focused, on the skill, which in my opinion is the way we should be looking at education, is, learning targets or, skill-based approaches. But what are some, I know earlier, Marcy, you mentioned the choice boards, and I know that Cynthia just put in a link to West Orange Schools in New Jersey. I took a quick look at it as well. And what they are putting out there is very much skill and broad-based, right? Read a book, practice these math skills. Can you kind of talk a little bit more, Marcy, about those choice boards that you mentioned? Or there were some people who asked about a link to those. I don't know if those are something that you can share or not.
Yes, we have. I believe we have them linked. I can certainly look into that and share those. Or the choice board that I can speak, I think, most specifically to it would be my daughter's. So, and my daughter, again, is in 3rd grade. So choice boards, like I'm going to reading right now in my mind. She was to read for, I think, 20 minutes, and then she had to write a reflection about what she read. I think one of them was write from a certain character's perspective on what that character was feeling, or if you were this character, how would you have done something differently? Her math right now is still very skill-based. I know she's been around measuring perimeter and things around our home. Those types of practices. I'm just trying to think here. I'm kind of drawing a blank on some of her assignments. Some of them has been the platforms, going into Prodigy or practicing her multiplication skills. That has been kind of a right now for them, still mastering their multiplication facts, those types of things. I'm trying to think of some higher grades. Our science teacher, our chemistry teacher, just had kids do something with, was it Play-Doh maybe, in a forensic crime scene, where they had to act out not act out the crime scene, but act out them going through like the evidence that was left behind at a crime scene. I think they filmed it and they talked about why this was evidence and how they used that evidence. I just feel like our teachers get very creative in how they are getting kids to show that they understand the concepts that they are putting in front of them. I don't know if that's a very good answer to your question, Amber, but.
Well, and I'm going to jump off of, Marcy, what you just said, because that has been, I'm going to do a Google Meet for our teachers either Thursday or Friday, where we start to talk about, okay, how do we keep students and parents from being overwhelmed, instead of that just traditional schedule, like what if you picked whatever the directive of the district is, just work on a standard today. And the standard, and to me, the choice board for the higher grades could be you pick how you show that you know this. Like, I think teachers right now are putting so much pressure on, like, they have to come up with 9 different ways. Don't do that. Let the kids, that's how they can explore different platforms. If, like, we're an Apple district, and so there might be some kids who say, you know what, I'm going to do a keynote. And another kid may say, no, I'm going to use a Google slide. The point is, maybe your choice boards are do something that is an infographic, do something that is in writing, do something that is a picture, like, the teacher doesn't have to be the decider of what it has to be and what app has to be used, or it could be that, like, if you as a teacher use Book Creator and 4 different apps, you could say, pick 2 of those apps and come up with something. I mean, sort of as I'm going through the ISTE certification, we've been given opportunities to do that. Like, here, you pick an app of your choice to get across this information. And it's changing that mindset of teachers. Yeah. Some of my teachers at the upper grades are going to say, what do you mean I don't have a rubric for every single different platform? And it's like, but the rubric should be for the standard, not for the platform. So it shouldn't be, in order to meet the standard, this is what you have to show. So we are going to start moving toward that direction, I think, just to hopefully take some pressure off of teachers to design all of these activities that kids are supposed to be working on at home.
I totally agree there, Don. I think one of the things that we have tried to I guess out there to our staff is, it's not about the tool, right? You can build a lot of things with a lot of different tools. You just have to find that tool that works for you. So going back to, like you mentioned, ISTE standards, like the creative communicator, getting that out to staff, like, it really doesn't matter what presentation tool that they use, as long as they're demonstrating what you've asked them to demonstrate. But that whole idea of that we all learn a little bit differently, I think is important that that's embraced, and that right now, especially, we all have access to different things, or we don't have access to certain things.
That's
to be able to be flexible and creative with not only our students, but our teachers as well. And I think less is more, where teachers are feeling that pressure. But I agree with you, Don, so much, throw it out there. Say, this is what I would like you to do. This is our standard. This is our skill. How can you demonstrate that? Get creative, think outside the box, and kids always rise up to the challenge. That's one thing about kids. They will find a way to meet that target, even if it's open-ended.
Well, and I'm thinking about it too, and I mean, my kids are older, so I don't have to worry about this, but I think about the pressure it takes off parents. If the parent looks at a choice board and says, okay, you need to create a graphic that does such and such, a kid may say, well, I want to use pictogram or whatever, and they get in there and it doesn't work, and it's blocked, and it's this and it's that. Then the parent can say, you know what, but you don't have to use that. Let's pick something else. Let's figure out. So it's not, I think right now, I remember when my daughter was in school, and it was, you have to make this video that is 7 minutes long and burn it to a DVD. And it was like, what in the world? I don't have a DVD burner in my house. How am I going to? And I think that's how some parents are feeling right now. It's like, okay, we have the iPad. I don't know anything about X app. And so I think if you give them some options, I really do think parents kind of then breathe that say, okay, we can do it on poster if we need to.
Right. Well, to that point, Don, I'm thinking, is there value in creating like a cheat sheet for parents, like aligned to the 4 C's? Like, these apps work well for communication. I'm just thinking, like, my kindergartner, if I told him, you need to do this learning target, and then he didn't know where to begin, it might have value for parents to have like a reference guide to say, well, do you want to use Book Creator, or do you want to use Bunsy, or just some sort of reference piece for parents to be able to facilitate that conversation with their kids. Yeah. When their kids might just be like, well, I don't know. I don't know.
I think anything that would help bring peace of mind or comfort to our parents right now is definitely worth sharing, you know, because we go about this because it's our daily work, right? We're used to all these platforms. We're used to some of this terminology and expectations, but for parents who have several kids at home, all at different age levels, I'm sure it's a lot. And so anything that we can do to, again, I think just be flexible with everybody and help them as much as we can. So yeah, I think anything we can get out there, cheat sheets on the 4 C's to help them, anything.
And I think one of the positives that can come out of this is if a teacher does allow students some flexibility and they start to see what students are able to come up with. I think when we are done with this, I think when our new normal is now back to what our old normal was, I think there will be some teachers that say, oh man, I remember when we were doing this e-learning and this kid produced such and such. I think it just opens up, like this is the time, and our district has been very forthcoming about that. Like this is the time to try things. We're not doing teacher evaluations. It's just, let's try different things. And I think when we see that kids will produce some pretty cool things when given the opportunity, I hope that pays dividends when we're back.
I think so too. Again, I know that not everyone has access to technology, but thinking of my specific role, this has been kind of almost a beautiful storm, lack of better words. It's giving teachers a different lens and looking how they can use technology to make things more efficient, to communicate, to collect information, to give kids, you know, another opportunity or another way of doing something. So it has kind of, in my very small world, in my very small lens, kind of allowed for teachers to try new things.
Yeah.
So at this point, we're at 10:47, and we scheduled this for an hour. So we are definitely we're recording. We will also catch all the resources that are being shared. Speaking of which, Lindsay, did you put a link in there to those resources, the Google Meet and the Zoom etiquette graphics?
Yep.
You put those in here. Perfect. But we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs. So if anyone has a specific question that they would like to ask Dawn or Marcy at this point, please feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat. And again, we can have you come off mute if you would like to dive a little deeper. But this is your opportunity to have your questions answered. One question, just real quick, are the other coaching sessions going to be this one played over or new sessions? They are all new sessions. So you've heard Dawn and Marcy both mention the ISTE standards. So one of the things that we have done is we've actually reached out to those ISTE certified educators. Congratulations to Marcy, as she is one of our first IDEA ISTE certified educators. Dawn's in the cohort now. So we have reached out to our ISTE certified cohorts and educators for them to sign up, as well as some instructional coaches throughout the state. So each session will be a different instructional coach, but the same type of format.
I just dropped in my contact information in the chat. And so if, feel free to email me, or honestly, my preferred platform is Voxer. If you're on Voxer, I put my handle there, and on Twitter. So would be more than happy to help when I can.
I just dropped mine as well.
There was pressure there, wasn't there, Marcy?
There was.
Oh, thank you to you both. Sarah is asking a question in regards to the professional development hours. So we are an approved provider for the PDHs that you need for recertification for your license through ISB. So we will have PDHs available at the end. In addition, just a selfish plug, but a selfish plug, hopefully that becomes a resource for each of you. And Lindsay, if you can put the IDEA event link, our upcoming events link into the chat. We actually have some upcoming events that we also will be offering professional development hours for your availability also. So we do a Wednesday webinar series with time being off right now, where our webinars are continuing frequently beyond just Wednesdays, but we do have those upcoming as well. Lindsay just put the calendar link in the chat. So feel free to register for those events in which we offer professional development hours as well. One other quick note, yesterday we did a series of 3 webinars with Apple, Google, and Microsoft, and how to use the accessibility features of each one of those platforms and or devices. And we have those recordings on our home learning page as well. You don't get PDHs for those unless you watch them live. However, just an FYI that the resource is available. There's some phenomenal accessibility options with Google, Apple, and Microsoft. And our webinars were phenomenal. I learned so much yesterday of things that I did not know on, all 3 platforms. So I would highly recommend you checking those out as well. Feel free to share those links with whomever. Parents, those might be great links for parents too, to share out about how to utilize those devices and platforms. Lindsay put a PDH link in for today's session, so feel free to go ahead and fill that out as well. But in the meantime, we've got about 8 minutes left, so please feel free to, again, pop your questions for Don or Marcy into the chat. Or again, if you have something very specific that you can vocalize better, feel free to come off mute.
Well, and I noticed one question in there. Well, let's see, am I muted? Nope. About the idea of geared toward high schools. And I would just, as a former high school teacher, I think from what I've seen, the high school teachers are having the hardest time with this because, and I think for good reason. If they're AP teachers, they're worried about AP test and SAT and all of that. But I think, I don't know that high school teachers anymore in this new system are any different than any other grade level. I think we really need to rethink what it is. So I taught history, and I can't in this new system just start plowing through the Vietnam War. I've got to look at that differently. And I think high school teachers, they think right now that it's like, oh, I got this because I'm going to just put this out there and then they have to do it by today. And then I'll put this out there tomorrow and they have to do that. And so I'm literally just going through my curriculum the way that I did when we were face to face. And I would really caution high school teachers to think outside that box, because what you may find out is that kids are not quite as interested in your content. And I'm sorry if I'm saying something that, but I mean, you're going to find out that, oh, wow, they're not really as interested as they were, because when I was face to face with them, I could tell stories and I could crack jokes. Well, now if it's just the Vietnam War for a week and a half, because that's what I did in class, I think we really need to think about that. If the standard we're trying to get them to do is look at opposing viewpoints, we're going to use the Vietnam War to look at opposing viewpoints. So this is the focus that we're going to have. And I think I always kid around with, I used to do mini lessons when I was in high school. They were 48 minutes. I did 48-minute mini lessons. Well, that's not a mini lesson. And so it might be that you really need to start thinking about, okay, I've got to boil this down in 10 minutes, causes of the Vietnam War, and then I'm going to let them go out and do whatever the standard is to show me that they understand those causes of the Vietnam War. So sorry, just kind of went out on a limb there. And I would agree, middle school can fall into that as well. Did I just shut everybody up?
No, I'm just reading the comments. I'm sorry, because this is we could go an hour on just this topic alone, Dawn, because as a former administrator, this was definitely one of the struggles that I had, in particular during evaluation time, when I would have these difficult conversations at the high school level of helping them understand it's not about the content. And boy, would that strike a chord with high school teachers big time, and funny that you bring this up, because just this morning, well, yesterday, I don't typically post a lot of my personal opinions on Facebook, but I kind of did last night, just in regards to really this, and offering up these coaching options and, promoting this, but also talking about how we have to focus on the skills, and it's not about, the content is important, yes, but you're using the content to teach a skill, and so I think that is a very good point. We've got to keep that conversation going.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes at the back, right, that backwards design times can really help us see what is it that we really want our students to learn, and then plan the activities and the choices for your students go in the opposite direction. I have found a value.
Absolutely. One quick question.
Here's the
Marcy and
puppy.
Don. Oh, there was a question that came through in regards to what do you think is the best approach to introducing a new topic? In particular, this was from the elementary level.
Yeah, and to comment on that, I've had many conversations with teachers, and I don't know that there is a right answer. I think the wrong answer is to do it the way we've always done it. Like okay, today we're going to start fractions, and kids, they don't, I would think there might need to be some reordering of things. And our superintendent kind of gave suggestions that if you look at, here are the skills that we need to do before the end of the year, to start making some decisions that, what we used to wait till May to do because it was more interesting for kids, let's move that now because it's not as difficult a task and a skill to master than this one is. And so I think maybe doing some reordering, I think using Google Meet to actually, don't just record a video where kids can't interact with you, but have a Google Meet where they can interact. And when you're introducing, they have the facial expressions, they have the laughter, they have the ability of saying, Mrs. Smith, I don't understand this. Can you go back? So I think just making some, what I just call them judgment calls. Like, this is not wise to introduce this topic right now, because it's just not going to go over very well. Maybe once they're used to e-learning, 2 weeks down the road, it'll be a little bit easier.
And I think too, piggybacking off of Don there is, if you are introducing something new, have the kids try to put that into their own words, so that everyone's on the same page. What does this standard mean to you? And have them break that down. And I've seen that done successfully at the first grade level. And so I think that sometimes helps kids when they can put it in their own words or work together to put that standard in kid-friendly kind of language. and then go from there. I think anytime you can have that personal connection, like Don was saying, definitely is going to help any kid anywhere.
I just wanted to say, to pop in real quick at the end here, that I appreciate everyone's information. It's my first year as a tech specialist, and I think this is a really trying year with COVID-19. But you all are fantastic and provided great resources. I don't know if there's one resource, but maybe just to grab contact information from people. I don't know if we want to put in a thread or if we have a separate locale for it, but I think maybe, I don't know if I'm on spring break this week. I don't know if I'm going to make every meeting for these virtual meetings, but I think for the ones that I miss, it might be nice to have like their Twitter handles and you know, websites or whatever resources they might want to put together too. So just a thought for future meetings as well.
That's a great idea. If you all want to just drop your contact information in the chat, we can archive the chat and then email that out to you so that you have everybody's information. But I think planning ahead, that's a great thing for Amber and I to think about, you know, having a form or something created ahead of time.
Cool.
Just while you mention that emailing out, if you are using Google Meet and you schedule a calendar invite and you send it out and you record it at the end of that, it will actually send you another email that says, here's the video. And then also, I think just as important, here is the chat history. And it actually then records on that site in a Google Doc that you can share out with staff as well.
So thanks for sharing that as well, Don. And yes, we definitely love sharing the chat information and chat resources. So to Kumar's point right now, we may put a form together, but in the meantime, if you're comfortable putting your Twitter handles or emails into the chat, please do so. If not, totally fine as well. Please only share if you're comfortable. And we will certainly collect those, and then most definitely they'll be on the chat and in the recording that we send out. This was a phenomenal group today. Thank you so much. We really appreciate Marcy and Don sharing their expertise, ideas, suggestions, what's going well, what's areas of improvement. And so thank you very much. If you have any questions, we can stay on for a few minutes longer. If not, please feel free to join us tomorrow at 12:30.
Thank you. It's nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, it's nice.
Thanks, Marcy.
Nice meeting
Thanks,
everybody.
Don.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually jump off because I have to be at a district one. So have a great day, everybody.
All right. Bye, Don.
I got to figure out how to leave. Oh, I see it.
Hey, Marcy.
Yes.
We had a couple people asking if you had any kind of one-pager or infographic on the 4-to-1 rollout that you did, like to share with teachers on how it is structured. Do you have any kind of literature on that?
I probably will soon. Our initial meeting about it was right before I jumped in on this one. I think our principals were in the midst of kind of putting that together and what that looked like with expectations. But yeah, as soon as I get my hands on something, I'd be happy to share that out.
Okay, that'd be great.
That
Thank
works.
you.
Should I share it with you or where would you? Yeah. Okay.
Yep, share with me and then I can get it to the right people.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I'm just going to hang around just in case, if that's okay.
That sounds good. That's what we usually do too, just to be sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of the people are from Illinois.
Yeah. That's awesome. This is a good idea.
Well, I mean, not everybody, it's talking about equity too, you know, not everybody has a coach, so it's good, you know, to spread the wealth.
Yes. One from Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, so this is Deanna from Tennessee, and I'm not going to show my video because you do not need to see this, what's going on over here. But it is so exciting to hear other people in different areas that have the same mindset and setting with their curriculum and instructional folks that we are. And our district, I'm sort of at a loss because I don't know what they're doing. Our tech department is just really working hard and keeping everything close to the cuff, and then literally we get one email and 2 hours later it's changed. So I think they're just trying to hold it off so people don't get stressed out. And we're technically on snow days this week, so I guess, you know, you aren't expected to do certain things on snow days, but I'm just trying to get ahead of the game, and it's been really beneficial to see what you guys are doing in different parts. So
Well,
thank
thank
you all
you for joining us. It's
thank
nice
you.
to connect with you again, and
Yes.
check in with Brian and Keela and see what they're up to too, because they're doing some great things with their districts.
Okay, good.
And Brian's posted a lot on his website, so
Okay.
yeah.
I'm loving this platform that you guys have for your teachers and the professional development. I'm really wanting to share this once all this dust settles. I want to share this with our district because this is what teachers need. This is completely valuable. It is not a waste of their time, and you have documentation of who's leaving and who's in the webinar, and I know that's always a big concern with districts. So this
Absolutely.
has just been a wealth of knowledge for me on all levels. So thank you.
We're so glad you're here.
Yay. Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
excited that the other coaching sessions are going to be new folks because I got a ton from these, and every little nugget is just going to help us move and get stronger. So thank you.
Well, and feel free to invite your fellow teachers in your district as well. You know, share the link so that they can pop on too, and you have a united front when you're trying to do this in your own schools.
Yeah, I've already, I plan to share it with I've got 2 supervisors, and then there are actually 9 on my team of instructional coaches. So I think this would be really, really good to help us all just really start thinking outside the box with a few things.
Mm-hmm. Cool.